My boss said I'd never succeed because I am too nice. Yesterday, his company begged me to come back 3 years ago. My boss called me into his glass-walled office and told me I'd never make it in this industry because I was too nice. Yesterday, as I signed the contract making me the youngest creative in my company's history, his desperate voicemail played on speaker for my entire team to hear. I still remember that meeting like it was yesterday. Mark leaned back in his expensive chair, looking at me with what I can only describe as pity. Listens, Olivia, he said, swirling his whiskey. At 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, you got talent, but you were just too nice. This industry eats nice girls alive. I had just successfully completed a project that brought in our biggest client that quarter. My team had worked weekends for a month straight. I'd personally stayed until midnight for 2 weeks to perfect our pitch. And here was my boss telling me my fundamental character was a flaw. The problem is, he continued, you care too much about your team. You listen too much. You are not cutthroat enough. He actually used air quotes when he said I was building relationships instead of building authority that night. I cried in my tiny apartment bathroom, careful not to let my roommate hear. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was too soft for this world of sharp elbows and sharper tongues. Maybe my mother was right, that I should have become a teacher instead. But the next morning something shifted. I realized Mark wasn't criticizing my weakness. Vader, he was revealing his. He saw my collaborative approach as a threat to the old command and control style that had gotten him to the top. I quit 2 weeks later. No dramatic exit, no burning bridges. I simply found a company that valued what Mark saw as weaknesses. A startup that needed someone who could build genuine connections with clients and inspire loyalty in a team. My first year was terrifying. I had moments of doubt when I'd remember Mark's words and wonder if he was right. But I leaned harder into being too nice. I remembered birthdays. I asked about families. I gave credit generously. Within 18 months, our client retention rate was the highest in the industry. My team's turnover was 0% in an industry where 30% annual turnover is normal. We weren't just succeeding, we were redefining what success looked like. Yesterday, as I sat in my new corner office with no glass walls, parent, I hate the fishbowl feeling. It's urgent, she said with a strange smile. It was Mark's executive assistant. His company was hemorrhaging clients and talent. 3 of their biggest accounts had followed me. 5 of their top performers now worked on my team. Mark would like to discuss the possibility of you returning in a senior leadership role, she said stiffly. Might be valuable in our current situation. I put the call on speaker as my team gathered around. Please tell Mark I am flattered, I replied. But it turns out I am doing quite well, being exactly who I am. As we celebrated with champagne later, my deputy Perter, who had followed me from Mark's company, Hearn raised her glass. To being too nice to fail, she toasted. Sometimes your biggest weakness is only a weakness because someone else is afraid of its power. The industry didn't eat this nice girl alive. It turns out the industry was hungry for exactly what I had to offer.